Dave Addison is Executive Director of Toronto City Mission. He has over 20 years of leadership experience in sales and marketing and general corporate management. And he's also a long-standing community volunteer at Center 55 and with many causes in the city. And a few years ago became Executive Director of Toronto City Mission. Welcome. We're so glad to have you on Huntley today. This is the first time you've guested, like you're with us for the first time, but your association with the program goes back a long, long time. Tell us about that.
Yeah, in 1983, I was riding my bicycle and through some act hit a telephone pole. I broke 6 ribs, punctured my right lung, fractured my pelvis, and was in intensive care for a number of days. Critical condition, 50-50 if I'd make it or not. And I was lying in the hospital bed after out of ICU, and I turned the TV on and Huntley Street was on, and they asked if anyone wanted to call for prayer. So I picked up the phone and I called, and I told them my situation, and they said, "Would you mind if we prayed for you on air?" And it was unbelievable because they prayed over the phone line and just breathed life into me and gave me a sense of hope that I was going to make it and be well. And there was a miraculous recovery that occurred after. Wow. So I just thank you for being here.
That's amazing, you know, and it's all those years of faithful people manning the prayer center that just is so inspiring and so humbling. There was a big transformation in your life because you were in corporate for over 20 years, very successful, downtown Toronto, making money, like resume looked amazing, but inside it was a very different story for you.
Yeah, I was a broken soul. I was successful by the worldly standards, climbing that corporate ladder, but I had this sense of darkness within. There was a value conflict which kept manifesting itself in my leadership roles, and it ended up in a very tumultuous career as well. I would either self-sabotage or I would be chosen to leave, and had a great friend in my employment lawyer who helped me each transition, but it was very much a roller coaster, and I filled the hole in the soul with food and drink. I was 300 pounds, and in 2010 came to the realization that I was an alcoholic.
Wow, so your addiction was with alcohol.
Yeah. And
God led you to a very transformative moment in your life where you came to faith and came to Christ.
Yeah, and I actually, it was on February 1st of 2010 that I gave myself to Christ, and it was 2 weeks later on the 16th that I had my last drink. And I did then go through the 12-step program and did the work to actually do the healing and within relationships, including my wife, who now we're celebrating 25 years of marriage, but only by the grace of God that she rode with me through those dark times.
Well, congratulations on that and on 6 years of sobriety.
Yeah.
But now in Toronto City Mission, you see one of the issues facing the city and our culture and youth today as being addiction. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's kids, you know, as young as in grade 6, 7, getting that exposure to drugs.
Wow.
And
it starts that young, does it?
Yeah, it does, and a lot of gang activity that the gangs are there preying on those young ones to draw them this way, and if they can get them started on the drugs, it's the predator, you know, that they then held captive by the drugs, and then they start getting into that lifestyle where they fund the drugs through selling or other gang-related crimes.
Crime or sure as they're older, sex and so on. I mean, it just gets worse and worse. So you're right in the front line of that in some of the most vulnerable neighborhoods in Toronto.
Yeah, and that really we're working with the children who then will become a part of youth in our program, but our focus is really on the kids in grades 1 to 6. And in each of the programs in the communities of Kingston Galloway, Jane Finch, Flemington Park, Willow Tree. We're in St. Jamestown as well. We are the hands and feet of Christ. In every program, we share the word, but we're building loving relationships with the kids that in turn lead to relationships with the families, and that's a sharing of love, and ultimately that gives a sense of hope and purpose to many that we serve.
Wow. Well, that's such an encouraging story, you know, and I think that gives me and hopefully all of us who are watching sort of the reminder that really the last place the church should turn its back on is people who are in need. And the only way that you can really reach out to people who are in need is by building a relationship with them. That's where you have the most influence. And I love the fact that what you're doing at Toronto City Mission is based on relationship with families who are in need. Thankful for what God has done in your life. Thankful for what He's doing through Toronto City Mission. And thanks so much for being with us today, Dave.
Thank you for letting me
Appreciate it.
share.
Yeah.